Another announcement, botherinas.
Everything bothers him.
He's unbothered.
He calls it unbothered, but that's what's cute because everything bothers him. He's bothered. I'm a botherina.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Unbothered by Thai Rivera. That's right, it's Unbothered by Thai Rivera. Sorry you're hearing all this moving happening. I've really taken this no camera thing to the extreme. Excuse me. Just playing. Really, well, yeah, it looks kind of terrible right now in my room, but not because of anything stupid. Like, I was doing laundry and then I was changing the sheets and doing all that stuff. And right now, Bijou doesn't have her stairs here, so she's losing her little puppy mind because she's not on the bed with me. You want to come up here? You know, I've talked about you being a problem as a co-host before, and it's really well. How the hell did you get up here? So what were you complaining about? You know what? This one's going to the pound. I got a new one. I don't need her around anymore. Bye, Beige. Ah, as her harness gets caught on my. This is Bijou. It's not working out between us. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, let's talk about. I did the Mothership a couple of times now. It's a super great club. It's really nice. I met Joe Rogan. That was very pleasant, and but I was a little because. I'm just going to be honest with you guys because it's just me and the Botherinos. Also, you need to subscribe to this new channel because I'm putting Unbothered on its own channel because I want to make more of the current events videos as well and keep Unbothered weekly. And for now, I think it's better if I set up another channel for that. So if you guys can, subscribe on the YouTube to my new channel that's going to be Unbothered, and it'll be what you're watching this on. So if you can just do that, and always hit the like, comment, let me know what you think about the things I'm talking about, or if you have any questions. If I can answer them, I definitely will. But yeah. Oh, and then also to the audio people, like I said, I'm going to continue doing the audio. I know I've been terrible, but every once in a while, you got to get off my back. Just playing. No, like some people had hit me up at a point, but I wasn't able to answer those messages because I didn't want to make it sound like I don't care. But at the time, my life was too busy for, like, I'm figuring out a schedule, and I'm also realizing where I'm losing time, where I'm not managing my time as well as I could be. And I'm not going to say that it's taken me or say that I'm ashamed that it's taken me until this age to figure this out or see these things. I think at some points I've been very good about the way I've managed my time, but then your life takes on different factors and then you find different ways to lose time, and before you realize it you're like, okay, I'm not really maximizing right now. So I will get better about that. Sometimes it was just too busy to even really have time to maximize, which that's its own thing. But I wanted to talk about that really quick before I move on. For people that heard the episode where I was talking about, it was just a couple weeks ago, obviously, that one that I put out where all the stuff went wrong with my apartment, the last video episode, we'll say. Um, the, the way my brain works, because I'll always find the silver lining. And I feel like you have to, and especially if you're a person like me or that's had a life like mine, which I'm not saying I've had the worst life, but there definitely have been like very trying moments in my life. And I've always had to find the silver lining. That's also where some of my comedy comes from, in case you haven't noticed. It's like being in a world that's so ridiculous or having ridiculous things happen to you and almost having to think about the most extreme thing to make you laugh about that situation instead of crying, instead of getting mad, instead of breaking down, instead of giving up. You find a way to find the silver lining in everything. And so the way that I came to see it after I had some distance from the way everything worked out was, yeah, I had to give up certain things that would be important to other people, but because I had just moved, couldn't necessarily be the top priority for me, like Christmas or going out for New Year's or the stuff that I said that kind of got messed up. Those days really couldn't mean too much to me during that time anyway, just because of all the stuff that I was having to do to get settled. So yeah, having to move and stuff definitely did add factors to that and make it kind of where, again, there were some trying moments in there. But at the same time, now that I'm settled in this apartment, and I knew it pretty much as soon as I got my internet put in because that was the thing that was holding a lot of stuff up. um, I felt like, okay, well, that was a sacrifice you had to make, was at the beginning having all of that go wrong so that you could actually get to where you are now, which is I'm very comfortable in my apartment. Like I said, I just did laundry last night, and I still might go ahead and hire a once a week person. The problem is, if I had anybody, I'd want them to just have a key to my apartment and then have them come at a set time, and I can be out at the dog park or whatever with the dogs. But I don't know anybody that I trust like that, so I'm gonna have to go through friend recommendation, and this could take a minute because a lot of the people I know don't have anybody clean their house, and I know plenty of people that have enough money to not to be able to pay somebody to clean their house. I mean, it's not that expensive. I had the girl that I only got to use her the one time in Vegas because when I wanted her the second time, she was, I think, busy, or it didn't sound like, I don't know. The first time that she came over, and I mean, like, she was, I don't remember how much it was for her. I think it was like $70 or something like that, but it was a 2-bedroom apartment, and I didn't. Anyway, this is neither here nor there. My point is, I am very comfortable in the fact, or very thankful now that I'm settled, that like I'm able to do laundry, because everywhere I lived in Vegas, with the exception of the roommate situation that I hated, I had to go to the laundry room. At least it would be on site, but it would be a laundry room. So, I say all of that to say that, like, as those things were happening, even, I would tell myself what the best part of all that was. And then when it's all over, then I feel like, okay, these are the things. And also, it was it was kind of a good exercise for me to be able to navigate all that and do the things that I had to do and get it all done within the time frames that I had to get the things done. And the only thing that was lacking was the amount of content I was putting out. And now that I'm fully in place, I also meet a lot of people, and because of the way Austin is, you meet a lot of people that are good at technical things. And they'll tell you little things you can do to save time, or things that they do on the go, and then you tell them things that you have figured out. And so it's really good, like, all the way around, my situation here in Austin, with the people that I know and the friends that I have. And but I do need to be home more, just as far as to edit content, to post everything, to really maximize from all the stuff that was such a big deal. And I put that in quotes since we don't have the video, but just so you know, because, like, I really do hold myself to a standard when it comes to things like that. And I will sometimes fall short because I'm human, but I will sometimes be like, okay, when you were mad at AT&T because they weren't able to get internet in here for 17 days, what were you so mad about? Why did you need that internet? Okay, well, now that you have the internet, why aren't you using it the way you were acting like you were going to use it when it was the most important thing in the world? So then that'll make me be accountable, because it's like, okay, well, I guess now I should upload as much content as possible. And with the way that the algorithm works and everything like that, when it comes to, like, YouTube specifically, if I'm making current events videos, obviously more people are going to watch those than the Unbothered, because the Unbothered, I'm telling you guys a lot of behind the scenes shit that you don't need to know. But I also feel like that's kind of what you guys are here for, is the true botherinas are here to listen to my life. And that's the reason you don't care that there's not video on Unbothered, is because you know. Which, by the way, everybody, thank you for the feedback. I would name names, but I don't have the comments in front of me, and I don't want to leave anybody out because, like, my botherinas, you guys, like, there's, and I'm not acting like there's a million comments or whatever. There's, like, 10 comments, I think, or maybe even a little less than that. But like the people that are saying like the video doesn't matter and that kind of stuff, you're what I'm talking to on this podcast. you know I feel like you guys really do like care about me and my, which even that I'm thankful for. And I had to swallow, I didn't get choked up there, but I do get kind of like the feeling inside. Maybe that was a subconscious getting a little bit choked up, physically, just because really that's the emotion that's behind it, because I really am thankful that people care about me the way they do, and I'm thankful for where I'm at right now, is my point with a lot of things. And I've been I was at the Mothership a couple of times. That's Joe Rogan's new club, for anybody that's not familiar. It's absolutely amazing. You can tell it was designed by a comic, and people, all the people around him uh, that are working for the club and consulting and that kind of stuff. Everybody has like the best comedy experience in mind. And so the way that the rooms are designed is really with all of that in mind. Just because you know how things work, behind the scenes, there had to be a moment where somebody was probably like, I don't like that wall there. You know what I mean? And I'm not thinking of anything because I never think about design or anything like that. So it's not like I have anything in mind, but just like you would like to think something could be perfect, but we know the way the world works, and every once in a while there's something that you had to compromise on because it was either a load bearing wall or what. I watch Chip and Joanne. I can't remember the name of their show, but Fixer Upper, is that what they are? Chip and Joanna Gaines. And so I know that every once in a while you have to make certain compromises or whatever, but the way that place is built is so great for comedy. You can tell they really took their time. It's a beautiful club, all the way around. Great, great experience. The security, of course, is what it has to be. Like, a lot of people don't understand that, but if you really are trying to have the best experience and the level of comic that Joe is getting, because, he's Joe Rogan and everybody knows him and everybody loves him, and his friends are some of the biggest comics in the world. And so security does have to be that way. If Chappelle just wants to stop in, or like any of the names that you think of when you think about stand-up comedy, and especially what's going on right now in stand-up comedy, like Christina Pajitsky, Christina P, as some people call her, was there like on one of the open nights. Ryan Sickler, like a lot of the comics, if you're a real comedy fan, which is what that's trying, what it wants to attract, because I'm already going to tell you guys, and I don't say this because, I've done spots there or because Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan, just because of the way everything is right now. That's, if it hasn't already in this last couple of weeks become the biggest comedy club in the world, it's going to be the biggest comedy club in the world. It's just, it really is designed for comedy. Everything about what they're doing in there, and it's an older building. It's like, it was, I think the Ritz is what it said on it or whatever. I'm not gonna act like I know the history or whatever, but it's an old school building and it's great, but it's it's just packed all the time, and it's everything's top of the line. And the, like, Andrew Schultz was there. Like, I couldn't even name all the names because it's been kind of ridiculous, and I've been there enough, so I was, you know hanging out and having a good time. And like a lot of the people there are Comedy Store people. And Comedy Store, I tell the story all the time. Comedy Store was the only comedy club in all of LA that I wasn't a paid regular at. And it's ironic that that's the way it worked out because Comedy Store is probably the one that I spent the most time at. It's just a lot of my time at the Comedy Store was with Tommy, and I'm not going to badmouth Tommy because, he was from a different time. Let's just put it that way. And I have made peace with all the people in my past, like in my head, even if I haven't, talked to them and said it or whatever. Where, like, I feel like people, even if I didn't realize it at the time, have played the roles that they've needed to play in my life in order for me to become the person that I am now. And I feel like things definitely could have happened sooner, but it wouldn't have been the right time because mentally I wouldn't have been able to handle everything that I've eventually seen that was going to be on the other side. And one way or another, that would have been on the other side. Like when it comes to the situations I've had with quote unquote cancel culture and the LGBT community, like if that had happened when I was bigger, like if I had made myself bigger and then had some huge fall from grace, I know that that would have been truly devastating because I don't really think people understand that when it comes to cancel culture, the way that I've become so calloused to the way that that all works out, or the way that they try to make that work out, is that it's a truly evil system. And I was glad I got to see it when I was like not when I hadn't done anything, or done very little. And so it wasn't like I was just doing the road at that time. Like, yeah, I had like the 2 Comedy Central credits and then, the stuff that I've done, but I hadn't become like, any kind of household name or anything like that. So then now when this ends up happening the way it's going to happen, because it is going to happen, just because I am going to work as hard as I need to work to make everything happen the way that it needs to work now. Whatever the situations, the barriers in the past were or whatever, that's no longer a thing. Like, I'm just not going to let anything get in my way of doing what I have to do. And so when I make it to where I want to be, and then I have people try to do that with me at that point, I'll be like, I already know what this is like, and I already know the ways to not let yourself really get engulfed in it. Because they will make you want to kill yourself. And I'm not being dramatic at all. The way that they'll try to make you feel like the entire world is closing in on you when you've been quote unquote canceled for something that in some cases was just you using words in a particularly bitchy way, or you doing a joke on stage. People don't realize how many cancellations and mini cancellations that I've had in my time dealing with cancel culture. And the worst part about it when it comes to me is that a lot of the times that I've been like being canceled, there were times when I was trolling and there were times when I was being silly or whatever, because after a while I did have a little bit of fun with it. But like, especially in the beginning, I genuinely thought I was helping the LGBT community, even if it was through joke form or whatever, where I just felt like I'm giving you guys good advice. I know that this is good advice I'm giving you because this is the way that I've been able to not only survive but thrive in redneck clubs and on the road and in a lot of places that it's no exaggeration to say that if you came in on the wrong attitude and you're something different like LGBT, you might end up getting beat up. But it's not about them hating you for what you are when it comes to your orientation or how you identify or any of that stuff. It really is about the fact that you come in disrespecting people, you don't know how to talk to people, you don't know how to make a convincing and cohesive argument. And when I say argument, I don't mean argument, I really do mean you can't state your position in a way that's not only non-confrontational, but maybe even a little bit fun and a little disarming. And instead you try to go straight at people, and you're not anybody that they're afraid to go straight at, or have come straight at them, because they'll go straight at you. But people don't get that. People in the LGBT community want to be like, oh, you're gonna respect me, and you're gonna talk this way, and you're gonna do this. And a lot of people are like, no, I'm not. And you're not gonna make me. And that's just what it is. And so then if they're talking like they talk to people online, there they would get beat up. Online, what it does is, even if you quote unquote win the argument and they stop arguing with you, they're just like, okay, well, let's see what happens when we have to vote on these kinds of things. And now this is where we are with a lot of what's going on with quote unquote anti-LGBT. So, and I've, along the way, if you look at old clips of things I've said and stuff like that, I definitely have been trying to, like, when it comes to the trans bit, a lot of people don't get that what I'm saying is, don't always just assume, because if you're not familiar with the trans bit, it's a bit where, yes, it's a funny bit and whatever else, but it's like, I do explain to people in the beginning, which everybody that wants to discount me for that joke either wants to edit that part out or they pretend that I didn't say it. But in that bit, I do say that you can't get mad at people for not knowing what you are. And then now that I do it, the people haven't seen it this way, so they, the cancel people, because I realized where I was, like, maybe not being as descriptive as I could be, which still wouldn't be a cancelable offense or anything to get too mad at. But, like, now I do actually include this because I use the things that people say to try to cancel me or whatever. I use that sometimes as, like, feedback for being like okay, let me explain this for the dummies. And then I'll be like, I need to add in a piece there. So the way the bit goes, or went before when people were trying to cancel me on it, was I would say that, trans people should be more willing to explain what they are. Like, you can't get mad at somebody if they don't know what you are. And so I say it's sort of like a butterfly. We all can agree a butterfly is a beautiful thing. But if you were to open up the cocoon halfway through and throw it out onto the fucking street, you might be like, that's a mess right there. You might not even know it's a butterfly. So what I'm getting at is, trans people, stay at home until you're pretty. So now I've added in a part where I let trans people know in that bit, where I'm like, sometimes people aren't asking you what you are to be offensive or to be rude. Sometimes they're asking you what you are so that they can respect you, which is something that I do have a lot of firsthand experience with, because people will ask me questions about being gay. And when people ask me questions about being gay when I'm on the road, because, when you're in other cities, like, and now everything's getting so much better, because so many people do have gay friends. But still, in certain places that I would perform, I would still have people ask me these very basic questions about being gay, and multiply that times all the years that I've been doing this, because 2013 or 2003 was when I started. I probably started going on the road around 2007, I think it was. And so, like, from 2007 until just recently, a lot of these questions I would have to answer over and over. And, like, sometimes when you tell people that, they're like, well, it shouldn't be my job to have people, well, it shouldn't be my job to have to teach people what it is I am or anything about me. And, like, okay, that's fine, but then whose job is it? Because that's the way I've always seen it. Like, if I want people to be more open to, other gay people, but more importantly, right now to me, because I'm actually right in front of this person and I want to have a good experience, because a lot of times when I talk to people, by the time I talk to people, it's after the show. So I've already had a good experience at the show. Now I'm just doing meet and greet stuff like that. And like, or just hanging out at the bar afterwards, or somebody runs into you at a pizza shop. Because, sometimes that'll happen as comedians. You're getting late night food, audience members have been drinking or whatever, and they, are getting late night food too, and you guys just run into each other, and then they start talking to you. And so, like, I would just explain to people almost like they were kids and I was teaching them something new. I would be chill about it and stuff like that. And if I wasn't in the mood to talk a lot that night, I'd explain the most basic parts, and then I'd find a polite exit strategy out of there. And but my point is, like, that's like a part, like, yeah, I have to make a joke out of it and stuff like that, and then people will focus on the pretty part of that. Well, the way I see it is nobody else defines whether or not you're pretty. You decide if you're pretty or not. Your beauty can't be decided by the outside world, and that really is the way I feel about it. Like, are there certain standards that we've all become accustomed to? Most definitely. But at the same time, there's always outliers. And I'm not trying to be shady when I say this, but Sarah Jessica Parker. Sarah Jessica Parker, to look at her, isn't what you would call your traditional beauty. A lot of times when celebrity Jennifer Grey was like a big one, if you remember way back in the day from Dirty Dancing, Nobody Puts Baby in the Corner. She was in Ferris Bueller. She actually, when she made herself more quote unquote beautiful, or what was considered traditionally beautiful, by having a nose job, and if you saw her before and after, you would see that she definitely was more what you would traditionally consider beautiful. But then everything dried up for her as far as acting and stuff like that, because she no longer had her unique look. And so some people would look at her and say she's ugly before she had her nose done. But like, obviously it caught on some level, and there were a lot of people that did like her, and there were a lot of people that did find her attractive. And she was dating Matthew Broderick for a while, and Matthew Broderick during that time was a certified hottie. But now that I think about it, Jennifer Grey dated Matthew Broderick, and she's like a non-traditional beauty. And then Sarah Jessica Parker has been married to Matthew Broderick forever now, and she's like not what you consider, he has a type. That's what this episode is about, figuring out Matthew Broderick's type. But yeah, no. So what I'm saying is, like, nobody, like, I don't decide if you're beautiful or if you're pretty. Nobody decides if you're pretty. You just one day have to feel pretty and go out in the world and just be pretty. Like, with all the shit I've had done to my face, you think that people don't think things about me. But like I've told you guys before, like, that doesn't, like, for me, the way it worked out, for anybody that doesn't know the old school story, and one day, like I said, I'll show pictures and everything on YouTube. It's just a matter, maybe that's something for me to work on. But what happened was, when I was much younger, I hung out with trans women. This was much younger, long before doing comedy. Well, let me not make myself sound too old. Not long before, but long before doing comedy. I forget. Sometimes I make myself sound like a million years old, and I'm not that old. But I'm definitely a woman of a particular age. So what happened was, I got injected with silicone. It was free-flowing silicone. I would say usually what you get pumped with, because that was the old school term that the trans women used, was getting pumped, and that's who I got pumped with, was with the trans girls that I hung out with, my two best friends at the time, and they had gotten pumped as well. And one day, like I said, I'll go into that story fully, but long story short, they injected me with some shit, the people that, because this is all black market, it's not a cosmetic surgeon or a plastic surgeon, it's just what they call a pump doctor. And so this person injected me with what was supposed to be medical grade free flowing silicone, which has been banned, even medical grade. Like, you're not supposed to get injected with silicone in the United States, even though some people do it through different, like, loopholes, like certified plastic surgeons. But if you guys ever see anything that says silicone, do not get it injected in your body or your face. Don't, no matter what they tell you, because not too long ago, they were doing this shit called silicone 3000, but the C in silicone was a K. It was replaced with a K, but it was still silicone. It was just a different, like, solution, where it had been broken down enough, I guess, that they were able to inject it, or somehow were able to use it, in trials. And the way that they try that shit, and a lot of times, is like, people have to get it done. I mean, like, first, yeah, it has the testing. Anyway, long story short, I got injected with silicone. That was commonly referred to as getting pumped. And they messed it up. That's the one thing. And then the other thing was they made it uneven. And then also it turned out that it was some plant root that they'd injected me with. So not even silicone. And so that led to, like, a lot of problems, And for a while I had a big, like, lump where there's now, like, a divot. And so some people would say, like, if I had just left things the way I was, maybe that would have been more aesthetically pleasing to some people. But with me, I didn't like looking at that lump all the time, looking at my quote unquote mistake. And I wished that something could be done about that, but there was nothing that I could find. And I did go see other people and stuff like that, different doctors, and some of the best in the country. And, like, I flew out to, what's it called, one time, I think it was Philadelphia, where I went to go see a doctor and get a consultation. And he's like, great, great, great. But even he at that time was like, yeah, there's nothing we could do about this. And then it got to a point where on the one side, I started, and this was after years, because I just left it alone. When that guy said that he wasn't able to do it, then I just kind of, like, just resigned myself to, like, okay, this is just something that has to stay this way. So then this part happened where the skin had started to get darker, which I knew that wasn't supposed to happen like that. And I had also seen that happen with my friends that had large amounts of silicone in their bodies, because mine was a large amount for your face, but not when you consider, like, a hip. And I'm not exaggerating at all. They will build you a hip out of injected free flowing silicone. Like, you have to go in every once in a while, and they put a certain amount of cc's, and it's kind of a lot, well, it's a lot. But, like, since it's a slow process and the legs and the ass are huge, Nicki Minaj has dealt with that. Cardi B has dealt with that. People don't want to talk about that that's what they did, but when people were broken coming up, they would get injected like the trans women, like I'm describing right now. So anyway, my point is, so then they had to remove the silicone, like something had to be done about it. And I went to this really great doctor in Beverly Hills that, like, did I believe he did Caitlyn Jenner, and then I recently saw him, I think, doing Dylan Mulvaney, because I saw a picture of Dylan Mulvaney with the doctor, and that was Dr. Harrison Lee, and that's who I went to. And, like, he was very honest with me in the fact that I could end up dealing with Bell's palsy, and there is a little bit of, paralysis or nerve damage in a part of my face. And I know people can see that when I smile, or when I laugh, especially when I smile too. But, like, for me, because of, the fact that I was thankful that it was going to be able to be taken out, and I didn't have to look at that lump of my mistake for the rest of my life. So I was thankful for that too. And, like, just the way that everything went, like, now, like I said, even though some people might say that before, if I had just, covered up the dark spot with makeup or something like that, which, like, the dark spot, like I said, was that the enough, that's where I was going with all that. Sorry. that not enough blood was getting to, like, enough circulation was going through my cheek right there, and so that was going to cause problems. And I had seen that happen, like I said, with friends that had like bigger amounts, like in their hips and stuff like that. So I knew what that looks like, and I know how dark they get. And I recently saw it on a picture of a celebrity where I was like, I know that's exactly what that is. And I'm not going to out them because I think that's kind of shady to do in a way, because maybe they don't want to talk about that or whatever. But I know it so well from seeing it on so many, because there's a lot of trans women that are having to live with that and not knowing how long that's gonna be a problem, or But anyway, I get so sidetracked in this because it's kind of a rabbit hole to go down. But my point is, I don't have to look at my mistake anymore, and I love the way I look. So when people online will try to talk shit or people try to say anything, I'm in my head, I just say exactly what I just got through telling you guys. Like, you don't decide my beauty. Like, you don't decide whether I'm quote unquote pretty or not. I personally love the way I look. And when I had that silicone in my face, I'll be honest, I didn't love the way I looked. And even though they weren't able to make it look exactly the way it looked, and there is still some asymmetry and whatever, I personally loved the way I look. I know what led me to looking this way, and I know the road that I've been on with all of that, and I know what all I've gone through with just being me and being the person that I am, and at this point having this face. And so you can't tell me I'm anything other than what I say I am. So I'm sorry if a joke hurts your feelings, but I'm not really thinking about you. And I don't know you anyway. That's the other part people don't understand, is they act like I'm saying that they're not pretty. Like I said, I don't decide that. And also, if I never met you before, how am I at all assessing whether or not you're pretty? But you're at home on the computer hearing me say this, or, watching me, even if you're live in a show, and you're acting like I'm talking to you and you have a reason to be offended. Well, thank you for letting me know that you think you're ugly, I guess. It might come in handy when you try to talk crazy to me, because that's a lot of times what people get mad at me for there. Is like, I'll just be like, okay, I know exactly where this is coming from, and I will throw it back at you in some shitty way. And then that's what it is. Then your feelings are hurt. You're moted, as the kids would say in years gone by. I know nowadays nobody says moted, but you guys are just going to have to listen to my old lady speak for a little while. Which, that too, I'm going to make a video about coming up with the like the non-binary people, you guys will get a little bit of a jump on the video when I put it out. Don't unsubscribe to the regular channel. Stay on the regular channel and watch those videos too, because those are going to be interesting in a different way. But these are our little talks, and I really don't care if people don't listen to Unbothered a lot, like, the general public or whatever, because you guys know I get kind of deep. Like, all that shit I just said right now, I want, you know, um, yeah, it's kind of personal stories in a way, but I just don't have the same boundaries when it comes to personal as a lot of people. But anyway, are you all right, puppy? Um, you know, when it comes down to it, like, I don't know why anybody takes anything seriously. I mean, like, I get when you have to take things seriously, like, your children or stuff like that. But, it's just a lot of stuff is meant to make you argue and basically be distractions, and also not really allow you to concentrate on the things that you should actually concentrate and care about. Not to try to be your guys' life coach or anything like that, but it's it's exhausting lately with people, because everybody's mad all the time about, like, things that I feel like they could really have more control over if they would um just chill out a little bit, And it's not like I don't think there are things that are pressing or whatever, but like when it comes to LGBT specifically, like some people think that, like right now when I talk about the trans stuff on my videos and stuff like that and people being non-binary and that kind of stuff. For me, I'll be honest with you guys, I'll let you see completely behind the curtain. When it came to the stuff I said on TikTok about non-binary people and not non-binary not being a thing, it really was me somewhat trolling and making the point that you have a community or a part of the community that's telling everybody, don't call me this, don't address me this way. But then we say, like, okay, I don't want, because I don't even say this. I don't care if people use the term cisgender. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's dumb, but I don't care if people use that term. I don't care if people use that term to describe me. But I have seen a lot of people online saying, I don't want to be cisgender. I'm just a regular woman, or I don't want to be cisgender. I'm just a regular man. I've seen people say that, and so while I think it's a little bit of a silly argument when trans people say like I don't want people using the word tranny, well, if they're not calling you a tranny, why do you really care? But they'll say I don't want people using the word tranny or I don't want to be called she, even though obviously you look at them and they are a woman or they were born a woman or however anybody wants to word that to be politically correct, but you all know what I'm getting at. But even still, we're supposed to say, okay, he and him. We're supposed to have that much respect for you in every situation you ask us to have that much respect for you. But then when straight people or regular people say that they don't want to be referred to as cisgender or they don't like certain terminology that LGBT is using, suddenly everybody gets super offended and starts trying to justify. Because if you saw the comments when I said the thing about cisgender, suddenly everybody was jumping in the comments and explaining to me how long cisgender has been a thing and how long well, I know I said that on a video that I can't remember if I said it was 2014 or whatever, but I Googled it. That's all I did was Googled what's the history of cisgender. And like, yeah, cis has been used. The prefix cis has been used for a very long time in a scientific context in different ways. They have used cis, for, I guess, being same or corresponding, like that was a common prefix, but used specifically in reference to gender, as in cisgender, that has been a relatively short time. And I know it's before 2014, maybe 2004. Who remembers? I don't know. I only hold on to this for so long, but Google it. You'll see I'm not lying to you. But it's like, well, I could explain to you the history of tranny. I could explain to you the history of why you're called a she, or most people would just call you a she in society. But we're not discussing that, are we? What we're discussing is there's certain people that don't want to be addressed one way, and there's other people that don't want to be addressed the other way. So maybe you guys should learn to respect each other, or just nobody give a fuck. Because mine would be option C, which is nobody give a fuck. Because I really don't give a fuck either way. But I can see objectively that if either side is saying don't call me this, but I'm going to call you that, and I don't care how you feel about me calling you that, but I really care about you calling me this, it's not a fair system because you're not respecting each other. And why is it one party deserves more respect than the other? And I don't mean political party, I mean parties in that dispute. So to me, like I said, figure it out amongst yourselves, but I'm going to have a little fun with the fact that I do think it's stupid that you can't just accept, and I will make a little bit of an experiment about it. I also did that with another thing that I did on TikTok, which I can't remember right now. And it's just, I just throw these things out because it's interesting to me. Well, also it helps me write material, but it is interesting to me how certain people feel that they're very entitled to everybody else doing exactly what it is they want, but then on the other end being like, I don't have to respect you at all. Like, that's an interesting dynamic to me. And by interesting, I don't mean good. But if you want to go ahead and run that play, then maybe see where that leads you. And I am betting on that it's not going to work out in your favor, because it's like people that are in abusive relationships, or even just mentally abusive relationships. Like, if you've ever been in that kind of relationship, you know that one partner will get pushed around and pushed around and pushed around and pushed around. And then, if they have any sense in their head at all, one day they just lose it. And then they're not going to do shit you say. Now it is all them. And that's a lot of times. Yeah, there's the ones that are truly, like, submissive and will completely give in to you and don't ever develop enough backbone. And even though I joke about those kinds of things, I really wish those people would snap out of it. And what I'm saying is a form of tough love. It's like, have a little bit of pride in yourself. Have a little bit of, like, self-esteem. Really do care about yourself in that way. Decide that it's time to leave, or it's time to stop putting up with this person, or whatever you have to do to correct the situation. But my point is, the American public isn't submissive like that. They're just not. So right now, while LGBT has been pushing this for the last several years, and I do mean trans activists, and I'm noticing that it's a lot of the they and the them people. Like, trans people are getting caught up in this, and this is why this is such a quote-unquote crusade for me right now, is because I have so many trans friends for so long, and I see them getting fucked in this culture war, and even though they haven't said anything to vent to me about it, I know that it is on their minds that this is not what they wanted. They didn't want to be worried about pronouns and whatever the fuck else. They just wanted to be able to live their lives without getting beat up, without having people threaten them, without having people make fun of them all day, without having to put up with discrimination when they were trying to get services done, or any of the stuff that we all enjoy as regular quote-unquote cisgender people. And there, I will use it because it's just to differentiate. But no disrespect to anybody. I'm just trying to speak in language that we can all understand right now. But, like, when you're dealing with the regular straight world, and then you're thinking about all the freedoms that you take for granted that these people didn't have, and now they're almost within their grasp, and you have these really radical, what would you even call them? Because they're kind of just ideologues like anybody else. Like, when it comes down to it, they might as well be pushing religion or whatever it is. It's like, and nobody ever wanted that. All anybody wanted was just to be able to live their lives in peace. That's what everybody wanted when I was coming up. But now the whole movement has been hijacked by these people that really need to be on meds. And that's when I really got reported. When I brought that up, then all of a sudden they flooded my page. And I think it was because I really figured it out when it comes to that. Like, because I will tell most of you guys that, like, what you're thinking the community wants right now, where it's like drag shows for kids, or kids at drag shows, and, like, kids to be medically transitioning. I'm telling you guys, most of the LGBT people that I've talked to, everyday LGBT people, definitely do understand your concerns on that. And, like, as a person who, I just told you guys the story of me getting the silicone injected in my face, and I'm going to make a video on this. You guys are getting a lot of jumps on this fucking Unbothered. I'm letting you guys know a lot of the content coming up on the daily videos, because this is something I plan to talk about too. I can personally relate to, like, having something done, which right now they're telling these kids that gender affirming surgeries, starting any kind of surgeries, is not a good idea when you're a kid, when it's elective. It's just not. I don't care what it is that's going on in your head or whatever. No, that's not a good thing. Hormones, I wouldn't even really recommend that, because you're messing with your hormones. Let your body fully develop into what it has to develop into. At least give it the 18 years until, like, hopefully your brain has developed enough and you've started thinking about things like that, or really been able to think about it and are able to make a sound decision. And at 18, whatever decision you make, I respect it. I'm not at all trying to act like you shouldn't be able to be you. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying, as a person that was definitely an 18 and above adult when I got silicone injected in my face, thought I was making the right decision, thought I knew all of the factors, thought I knew the way that worked out. I can definitely relate to having done something to your body and then later on wishing that you hadn't done that. And I would just hate to see it be something like or as extreme as gender affirming surgery. And I think a lot of us adults definitely do understand, LGBT or not, how parents are scared. And parents are saying, no, we don't want you taking the control away from us, because you know that eventually it's going to go from this is the gender affirming care that you could possibly get to that being now child abuse if you don't allow your child to do these things that they want to do. And that's where I think a lot of people see it going. And I know LGBT people, I know LGBT people listening to this would be mad if they ever listen to this, but LGBTs don't listen to my stuff like that. That's the other thing. They don't really support me anyway, and so I don't know why they think they should have such a say in what it is that comes out of my mouth. It's like you guys aren't my audience, so I'm just gonna tell the truth. Like maybe if you all were paying my bills, I'd be like, you know what, you guys, you should hear the LGBT out. But I'd be living in my castle and not really thinking about you normies. I mean, like, not that I'm saying I'm better now. I'm saying if I lived in the castle, we can all agree I would be better at that point. But I wouldn't be happier and I wouldn't be telling the truth. So anyway, neither here nor there. In a perfect world, hun. But yeah, so a lot of us can see how parents are scared, and a lot of us can see how some of what's being pushed isn't necessarily the best for kids. And it's more about people with mental illness trying to push a radical agenda so that they can either feel more normal or have everybody be just as miserable as they are. And that is what I have to say about that. Stay unbothered.